us today. First of all, Jim, just get your reaction to the way this group played down the stretch and fought into the final week of the season in terms of staying mathematically alive.
Yeah, it was good. It was exciting. It was what we were all hoping for, except we didn't quite get across the finish line. But most of the players played to the highest level, to their ability. They played in meaningful games that gave us a chance to watch them. I think if you want to really break it down and look at the future of what we got, we'd like to see our team play a more structured game and not depend on our goalie as much. But we certainly feel that there's enough good players here to continue to build here in the next year or two towards getting to be in a consistent playoff team and a contender.
Has the way the team played down the stretch, how they performed, the results they got, changed your long-term view in any way, or is it still pretty similar?
No. It's it's like I just said. We depend on our goalie a lot, and we're very fortunate we have a terrific goalie. And all good teams have to have a goalie like Demko to win a cup. But at the same time, we got some work to do here. We have a number of players to add. We'd like to stay with our same plan when we add players, keep them in their mid-20s or younger so the team can come together in the next year or two. Now, there may be the odd case where it ends up in free agency, maybe a couple of weeks in or something, that a player in their 30s falls and back, and, we may feel that that's the right thing to do at the right price and the right term. But our plan's still the same. We still feel we have some work to do. I mean, in this league, if you lose the wrong couple of players, you can take a step backwards. But if you add the right couple of players, you can take a step forward. So I think it's fair to say, adding the right couple of players, that we can be a playoff team pretty quick.
Jim, regarding goaltending, Thatcher mentioned a couple of days ago that he may require something in the offseason, although he's being reevaluated. Is there any update on his medical condition?
I don't. Patrick may have an update.
No, I don't have an update either. It's a lower body. I don't believe there's going to be a procedure or even something that's going to hinder him to come back ready for training camp.
Jim, you hit on the workload, and you know something about it. 74, 75, you played 59 games for the Red Wings. I know it was a long time ago, and you were 25 years old at the time. Do you remember that? Do you remember what it was like?
Are you telling me I can't remember that part?
Well, no, I wasn't going to throw the numbers. I wasn't going to throw the numbers at you. But the numbers were a little bloated. Do you recall that and how difficult it was to play that many games, or was it difficult for you?
Well, I think it was probably harder for me. I mean, I was 5'8", 160 pounds. And so I wasn't nearly as strong as Thatcher. And then we didn't have goalie coaches in those days. I mean, he's being worked pretty hard every day in practice and whatnot. But I think around 60 games, if you want your goalie to be good in the playoffs, is probably a good number for him.
Are you concerned at all? I mean, you need a really good tandem. Spencer Martin has only played 9 games this year, 6 here, and 3-0-3 with lights-out numbers. It's a short book of work, but are you confident enough that you've got the tandem there with Demko and Martin, and you won't need to do anything there to adjust?
Well, you don't know for sure, but if you can get a backup goalie making the minimum in this league, it gives you a little more flexibility in other areas, cap-wise. And certainly Martin has worked hard at his game, and he's played extremely well in Abbotsford, and he played well here. And so he can't take anything for granted this offseason. He's got his contract. He's on a one-way deal, so he's going to be happy about that. But he needs to work hard this summer and come in and play the same way. But I will say, sometimes you see a goalie play and you're thinking, I'm not sure. He's out of position. They still didn't score. He doesn't know where the rebound is. I mean, Martin, he was solid. Positionally, he was so solid. He knew where the puck was. He was tracking it great. So I would be surprised if he dropped off next year.
Okay.
There's no reason that he should.
Patrik, you've talked a lot about the need to create cap space. Is that still your view, that you're going to need to find a way to build more cap space or make some changes?
Well, yeah, but I mean, saying that, I don't think you just want to create cap space. We want to get better too. We're always looking, as Jim mentioned here, to improve our team. And I think that's part of, working with your cap space in the current cap situation.
Jim, your reaction to the job that Bruce Boudreau did down the stretch here with this group?
Well, not just down the stretch. He's done a good job since he got here. And, he's a player's coach. He motivates. And he got as much out of players as he could get. And so I like the job he's done.
When you say structure-wise, Jim, are you talking about a particular part of the system's play, whether it's defensively or breakouts, or you talk about playing more structured next year?
Yeah, I think it's the structure of the team, of how we're going to play, to give players a chance when they get in trouble. Like, our exits from our defensive zone are not good. Probably one of the worst in the league, okay? And so if we have and I can talk about all zones, I could talk about a lot of things, but I'll make this one point. Defensemen are getting in trouble all the time. There's puck pressure, puck pressure, puck pressure. And I'm not saying we have the best defense by no means in the league, but we have defensemen that are certainly capable of playing better if they had that structure. When they're in trouble, what am I supposed to do with the puck? Instead of just bang it up the boards and, they keep it in the zone, bang, it's in our net. So I'm only talking about the defensive zone. I could talk on about the different zones. And it's something that's very fixable, but it's something that the Canucks are going to have to do if we're going to be a consistently good team and not have to rely on our goalie for most games.
Patrik, when you came from Pittsburgh, you talked about the culture and trying to build the right culture here. And that's not just about games, it's about practices, it's about rest and preparation. Did you see any change in that culture in the last couple of months of the season? How much work do you think there is to do there?
Well, I obviously think there's, as Jim hinted there again, there is more work to be done here. We did see some improvement here over the last month, but I think it's a commitment, and I think, quite honestly, if you want to be a good team, that's a sacrifice, and I think some of our younger players need to understand how hard this league is, and we're done here now. We're not even playing the playoffs, so I think we need to get better in all areas here.
Jim, you mentioned a couple of players adding or a couple of players subtracting, making a big difference. It seems you have a little bit of a complicated offseason. I don't know if they're ever simple off seasons, but you obviously have decisions looming on players who are out of contract after next year. How complicated is it? How difficult is that balance to add without subtracting, without taking that step back?
Yeah, it's very complicated, probably a little more complicated here than we'd like, but that's our jobs. We have to figure out how to do it. And, Patrik will start getting into the off season here pretty soon. We got our scouting meetings next week, amateur and pros. Once they leave town, then we're going to have a good idea of what everybody thinks of the organization and who may be out there, and how do we figure out how to get this player, and are we going to be able to move this cap space here in order to bring this new player in and hopefully improve the team. So it's complicated, but it's doable. It's very doable.
Bruce said yesterday, you probably are aware of the quote, that he knows he wants to be back, and he thinks that you guys would like him back, and therefore he thinks something is going to get worked out. Would you agree with that sentiment?
Well, he knows we want him back. He was told that before the season was over. And he knows our position. Like I said, he did a terrific job, but he didn't coach a whole season here. And we would like to see him back and work with him on a few things. Everybody work together to make it better.
Are you willing, he wouldn't want to come back as a lame duck coach in a final year? Are you willing to look at an extension then, even if it's just 1 year, so he's not in the final year?
No. But I don't view him as a lame duck coach. If you have a strong enough organization that supports the coach, and if people that suggest he's a lame duck because the players will decide not to listen to him, that won't happen. The players that start not listening to him will be gone before him.
Patrik, your remarks to Patrick Johnson about having no superstars got a fair bit of play in this market. At the same time, Elias Pettersson's season sort of took off, and there were a lot of people that drew lines to that, and maybe Elias fed off that comment. Do you stand by the fact that there are no superstars here, and what did you make of the way Elias finished his year?
Well, I think my comment was more that we didn't have a superstar that would take all the money this off season. I don't believe I said that we were missing a superstar here. I do think we have a lot of good players that have a potential to get to a superstar position in the league. And definitely, our goalie Demko, Quinn Hughes, and Elias Pettersson here. Credit to the players that coming back and playing a really, really strong second half here. Credit to the coaching staff working with the players, and I'm happy for Elias that he was able to take a step here. But I believe there is more to come. I think he needs to have a really good summer here. I think he's at 23, turning 24. I do believe there is even more potential, and I think the next step for all the young players is to carry it on in the playoffs. We've seen. We've been fortunate to be around Sidney Crosby and Chris Letang and see how they make other players around them better. And I think that's what a superstar in this league does. And I have a higher expectation on those particular players coming into next season. It's time for them to step up and be ready to play 82 games.
Jim, when you took over and you had to hire a GM and round out the front office, and you said that would then give you an opportunity to look at bigger picture issues for the organization.
Yep.
Is there anything you can tell us a few months on from that statement about anything that you're going to do here at the rink?
Yep. Well, this will be the last time you have a press gathering in this room. You're going to get a new room, nice new room. But this whole area from here all the way to Gate 9 is going to be totally renovated. The locker room's going to be totally done. It's going to be changed in a more workable way for the medical staff and coaching staff and where the players work out and all that. We're going to do some things in Abbotsford. Unfortunately, there's not as many things we can do there because you got to blow too many walls out and whatnot. But we are going to refresh their dressing room and make it a little bit better. But the other priority, and we're gaining momentum on it, is the practice rink. And Michael, it's one of his priorities, working on it all the time. He comes to me to update me, and getting down to 2, maybe 3 different sites, and very close to making a decision on the site. So some pretty exciting things here, from the dressing room, which will make it so much nicer for the players and the staff, to Abbotsford, to that practice rink that everybody's been waiting for. But we're going to keep pressing to keep the momentum going.
Spending money on facilities is not always something an owner necessarily wants to do. How complicated were the discussions with Francesco about making all these changes?
Not at all. He really wants to do it. There was no twisted arms here trying to convince. My relationship with Francesco from the day he came to my house has been terrific, and we discuss things. I guess we really don't talk that much. Maybe once every 2 weeks we'll grab a bite to eat or something or catch up. But he's let us do our job here. When we need something, there's no pushback on it, and he's pretty excited about, if there's such a thing, spending money on adding these things.
You said when you were hired, you knew part of the job was managing up, but doesn't sound like you've had to do very much of that.
No, I have not.
Question for either of you. Do you know what the future will hold for Brandon Sutter?
Well, first and foremost, I hope. Brendan is a great person and character here. We definitely hope that he's going to be healthy here. That's a priority for Brendan. I had an exit meeting with Brendan, so he feels the full support from us, and I have respect for him. So I guess it's too early to say.
Jim, can I clarify your comment from earlier about a potential Boudreau extension? Was it that you'd be willing to have him back regardless of whether an extension was signed or not, or that you're not willing to have him back with an extension at the moment? Will you just clarify that for me?
Will you clarify your question?
Sorry.
No, I got it. I got it.
Thank you.
No, we would be willing to have him back under the contract that he agreed to when he came here.
Right.
And that's certainly not to say that at the end of next year we wouldn't want him back. He continues to do the job he's doing. We have an exclusive time period to negotiate a new contract at the end of next season. And I just feel that as good a job as he's done, it wasn't a full season. And I feel that giving him a chance to take the team from training camp and all the way through next season, I guess we could get to a point where partway through the season we may decide to talk about that. I hate going back, and you guys probably get bored about stories from another team, but I do it anyways. Mike Sullivan had a contract in Pittsburgh, won the Cup in 16. I didn't do anything with his contract. He won the Cup in 17. I didn't do anything with his contract, and he was going into his last year. And then he got to the point where partway through the year, then we said, maybe we should talk about it before we get to the end of the year. So I firmly believe that this is the right thing to do. You have to be, in our business, you have to be cautious with your decisions, and you have to do them for the right reasons. And if you don't, you're going to get yourself in a position someday where you're paying 3 and 4 coaches in the same year. And that's when managing up, whoever asked that question, that's when managing up will become difficult.
In terms of...
You come from a scouting background. Derek Clancy comes from a scouting background. If I'm not mistaken, he's sort of done an assessment internally about how you do things. Do you expect to be making changes to your amateur and pro scouting departments this offseason?
Well, I think it's a little bit too early to say, but I as I said, on the team here when I took over, we obviously evaluating or players leading up to this point, and we're still evaluating our staff. We always want to get better, so it might happen.
Harvey, I believe, has run the last couple of drafts for the organization. From what you've seen in your time here, are you comfortable with the work that's been done and with he as the leader of your amateur scouting for this draft?
Very comfortable. Todd is a very knowledgeable person. I didn't know him before, but I got to know him. Very prepared, very detailed. We will support Todd, and I believe that he's more than capable of running the amateur staff.
Are there any other changes to your scouting staffs, either pro or amateur side, coming in the near future?
Well, we still have management meeting here starting today, so we'll discuss more about that as we're leading up here. But I want to hear my management staff's opinion on the work here.
And for both of you, how big a priority will it be for the organization to engage the likes of Bo Horvat and JT Miller in extension talks this offseason?
Well, that's, those two are good players, and Bo is the captain of the team. So definitely, I will, when the time comes, I will definitely reach out to their agents, and I had exit meetings with JT, and I will have with Bo next week. So they're good players, so we want to talk about it for sure.
Patrik, I think it was Jim who had the quote that was, players who don't play for the coach will be gone before the coach. Is that representative of the culture shift that you were talking about in regards to how you want this club to operate?
Oh, definitely. Hey, it's nice when individual players have record season and all that, but at the end of the day, we don't want to sit here next year. We want to get better, and I think the biggest thing is that you can ask all the players that have their jerseys up in the rafter if they would take it down and change for a Stanley Cup banner. I think that's what's matter in the end of the day.
When it comes to the development prospects camp, are you guys going to try and be able to bring in European prospects, NCAA prospects that are in the system? Is that kind of the goal there in July?
Definitely. Obviously, it's been tough for the last couple of years with COVID, but that's the plan. Cam Granado and Ryan Johnson and Chris Higgins has been working on that. So that's a plan to have all our unsigned and signed draft picks here.
With Linus Karlsson being an example, is he one of the players that still you want to get over here? And what are your kind of expectations for him at that development camp, prospects camp, and going into next season?
Well, obviously, Linus is fighting for a spot for Sweden at the World Championship. They still, I believe, have one tournament left here before they're going to pick the team. I think it's a great experience and good for him. I think regarding the expectation, I think there's always a transition period for European players coming over to North America, different lifestyle, different rink size. I think Linus is excited, and we're excited to have him here. We'll see where he is at coming training camp, but we're excited to see him here in July.
It feels like the European free agency market's been a little quiet, I guess, up to this point. Is there still a lot of work being done? Do you guys know that there's a line mate of Karlsson's who's available as well, some guys out of the KHL? Is there still a lot of work kind of in that direction for you guys to find free agents from Europe?
I think we're very open-minded to all players that are available, and that's what we challenge our scouts on. We have the World Championship coming up, and we will have Derek Clancy will attend the tournament. So if there is a free agent, European free agent that we like, we have room to improve our team, and we're excited about it. I will try to get him.
Jim, the hockey club announced today the return of the Young Stars tournament. How exciting is that, and how big of a priority was that for you guys coming in?
Yeah, it was a priority. Everybody that was here prior to us getting here really pushed for it. It's something that we've always liked. And to bring the development camp back in right after the draft, have it right in Vancouver, and then have the rookie tournament, I think it's so good because it gives some of those players a head start on the big camp. They get to play against players more their own age, and really prepares them for big camp. So I'm excited, and excited the fact that we can move around the province a little bit and let other people see our players.
Can you fill in any details on the size and scope? That Young Stars tournament started to shrink. How many teams? Is it the Alberta teams? Is it Winnipeg?
Well, we have 2 other teams committed at this point. Ideally, we'd like to have 4, but we don't right now. There is one team thinking about it. I don't know what more there is to think about, but they'll let us know at some point.
Jim, with regards to improvements in the facilities at Rogers Arena and the practice rink, how important do you think that is for retaining players and bringing in free agents, and how far do you think the team was lagging behind some other facilities in the league?
Well, we have an older facility, I think overall, the people here have done a good job of maintaining the facility. But you've been in the locker room; it's outdated, and it certainly needs to be updated. And it helps in recruiting, and more importantly, it gives the present players here just a better feel when they're in the building, you know, and the more the present players like it here and spread the word on what it's like to play in Vancouver, it really helps recruiting a lot.
What do you need to hear from Bruce? It seems like the ball's in his court. You've told him you'd like him to come back. When do you need a decision?
Well, in our agreement, both sides have till June 1st, so he can take whatever time he wants, you know. The longer you leave things, these type of things start to fester a bit because then they become more emotional. But we have to make sure in our job that we don't let it become emotional, and for the wrong reasons it gets off the tracks, okay? Our talks with him have been very positive. He's well aware that we appreciate and respect the job he's done. Explain to him why we're doing it the way we're doing it and why we want him back. But also with the understanding that, you know, continue to do the job you're doing. It doesn't mean this is your last year in Vancouver.
Ryan Johnson feels like he's worn 1,000 hats this year. Going forward, what role do you see him filling?
Well, he may have worn more than that. We are all very impressed with the work he does and really respect him, and I'll let you take over from there.
Yeah.
But we like him a lot.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with Ryan Johnson and the work he's done with this year. Abbotsford obviously stepping up with the changes here. I rely a lot on RJ. Got a great relationship. His big part of the management staff, and moving forward, him and I are talking, and I'm sure we're gonna figure out what the best role and position would be for him here once we're over. But he's doing a tremendous job with Abbotsford.
For both of you guys, talking about European free agents, we'll call it the political situation in Russia, and this probably applies to all NHL teams. What has it meant for you guys in terms of, you know, maybe planning for a draft? Your best 20-year-old is a Russian right now. What has it meant moving forward in terms of that relationship and potential talent?
Well, first and foremost, we follow the instructions from the league. I think it's sad as it is. At this point, we haven't got any restrictions of not drafting or signing Russian players. Obviously, it makes it more complicated. So I think we just follow and see, you know, for the updates and the info from the league leading up to the draft.
What was your impression of the under-18 World's depth and base there?
Yeah, it was sad that you know, obviously two teams didn't play there, so it was a little bit overall quality might have been a little bit lower. There was some great hockey games there. I was over for I think 5 days. I thought it was great. It's always good to see the top level talents leading up to the draft, spending some time with the staff and hearing discussions. I'm excited for next week's scouting meetings.
He loved it. Sweden won. But I may want to add, Canada didn't have all their top players there.
Here we go.
Jim, I know how much biz is left, but on the day of Guy's funeral, do you want to touch on, Ben brought up the 70s, 78, you had a pretty monumental series with the Habs, but you want to talk about Guy at all on the day of his funeral?
Well, yeah, I, you know, it's just really sad now. A lot of guys that I've played against are passing on, and you know, we had Gillies and then Bossy and now Lafleur, and you know, these guys are icons in the game, and but he's the celebration of his life seems to be first class in Montreal, and it's the way it should be. But what a phenomenal player and a great ambassador for the game, and he'll be missed.
And going back to Abbotsford for a second, I'm wondering if I could get sort of a big picture assessment of how you feel things went for the franchise in the first year and what you might be hoping for playoffs?
Well, I sure have been down in Abbotsford, I would say, I think 5 or 6 games. The excitement there, great fan base. I think the players have played really hard. I think the coaching staff have done a really good job. Obviously here the last 2 months, I would say we took a lot of players up to the big club here in Vancouver, so they were a little bit depleted, but they've done a really good job down there. We were hoping for starting on home games there this week, and now we're starting tonight in Bakersfield. So I think it's a great opportunity for all those young players to get the experience of playing in playoffs, playing hockey, important hockey in May. So we're excited, and hopefully they come back home next week.
Let me just finish this. This could be the best franchise in the American Hockey League over time. And when Francesco first came and talked to me, that was a priority of a number of things that we talked about. The importance of having that franchise here in British Columbia and how good it's already done in its first year, but to make sure that not only it's as good, but make it better and better, and make sure you have good players there so we have a good team every year. So it's very important to our franchise.
Patrick,
Sorry.
you talk about the importance of playoff hockey. What about for a player like Vasily Podkolzin, and your thoughts on his development throughout this season as well?
Absolutely. I was really impressed with his play up here, I would say, the last 4 or 5 weeks. He got more comfortable, got his confidence, and really looked like a full-time NHL player. That being said, he's still young, and we know the ups and downs of all the young players. It's a hard league. It's a really hard league. And we felt as an organization preparing our guys for what it takes to play important hockey in May and be part of hopefully a long playoff run here. We thought that would serve him the best moving forward.
Time for a couple more here. Regarding Brock Besser, we all know about the qualifying offer situation. We also know that he's had a tough season for a variety of reasons. How complicated is that to navigate, and is it important to try and get a deal done over the next 8 weeks before you get to the deadlines on the 2nd and the 11th of July?
Well, I think that's the deadline, so obviously we want to definitely get something done before that. We have positive talks with Brock and his agent, so we're just going to continue to do that.
Patrick, in terms of clearing cap space this summer, do you feel like you can clear enough space without touching someone from your core, and do you think that you need to make major changes this offseason?
I don't think you need to do major changes. Obviously, we want to get better, and we're open for discussions with other teams and free agents and see how we can improve our team. I said earlier, I don't just want to get rid of cap just to create cap space. I want to improve our club to get better next year.
Are you willing to take a step back potentially next season in order to get better long term?
Well, I don't want to definitely take a step back. I don't think anybody at this business want to take a step back, and you always want to get better. So, no, I hope we're definitely going to find ways to improve our team here.
Pat, it's been a relatively conservative, you've only been here for 3-4 months. We haven't seen a ton of moves to sort of parse through and say that's how they like to approach things. But when you talk about shedding cap space, not just to shed cap space, but also to get better, is the Hamonic out, Dermott in move sort of a template for the way you're thinking about it, where you bring in another guy who's maybe half the price?
Well, you could look at it 2 ways there, and I think we got a younger defenseman that we believe that they're more upside, and he was making less money, and we control him for another year. And I think that's when Jim started talking here. I think we want to get better, but we also need to find ways to get younger. So I think in that regards, that was a move that that was part of our plan.
But is that illustrative of what you mean when you talk about not just shedding cap space to get cap space?
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be if the right fit is there.
Jim, you were asked about individuals that you brought in, but when you were hired, you talked about wanting to, flesh out your front office, diversity, and you've brought in people from different backgrounds. 6 months on, are you happy with the way that front office has come together and worked together?
Really happy. Really proud of this group. They really work hard. They communicate all the time. Everybody's part of all the decisions made. Everybody gets their input. I think it was Ian that asked about the scouting and asked about Todd Harvey, and Patrik answered that question. But, that's part of Cammie's role, where the director of amateur scouting and pro scouting and player development, they report to her. And they feel really comfortable with that approach because now they're getting some direction. And she will make them accountable for things and making sure the reports are proper and they're in, and, that we follow the reports when we're making decisions and all that. So that's just one example of how things are really working for us. But I really like our group a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.